guys, welcome to my channel. My name is ReadingBear and I hope you are ready for some more stories. And today, we'll take a look at some new I Don't Work Here Lady content. If you enjoyed my content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and post some bear emojis in the comment. And now, let's dive right into the stories.
The first story is titled Cosplayed at Moa Got Confused as Staff. So a few years ago, I went to the Mall of America, which is a huge mall in the state of Minnesota. They have almost every normal mall store and a mini theme park. Now this visit was different for me cause I was there as part of a conference for a genetic disorder that I happen to have. So I was hanging out with a bunch of people my age with the same disorder. Now, I am a big cosplayer and recently finished up a new one. It was Shizuo Hiwajima from Do Ra Ra Ra. His look is longish blonde hair, sunglasses, white dress shirt, black dress vest, nice black pants, and dress shoes. Now with being of someone with dark brown hair, I had a wig on. So I am wearing an obvious wig, sunglasses, and a nice attire while hanging out with my group of friends at Mall of America. We first head over to the small amusement park because the conference gave us free tickets to use on the rides. So some of the group went on a water ride, and since I didn't want to get my outfit wet, I stayed behind. While I was chewing on one of my candy cigarettes, which I had since my character smoked, another visitor came up to me and tapped on my shoulder. I thought it is one of my friends who went to the bathroom and came back. I turned around and see a guy who asked me where a certain store it is. I replied, I don't know. I don't work here. To which the guy asked why I was dressed like that if I didn't work here. Now, I should mention that I was in the amusement park area where the employees wear a red shirt or jacket. Not fancy look. I just tell him because I wanted to, and he went about his way. I didn't mind it and thought it was a funny story to tell the rest of my friends. But then as we were checking out the American Girl doll shop, since some of the group was interested, it was incredibly packed in there, so half of our group got separated. A woman tugged on my sleeve demanding the price of something there. I'm a bit shy to strangers in crowded areas, so I try to tell her that I don't know and that I don't work there. And before she can say anything, I quickly try to regroup with my friends before it gets bad. I know these two stories aren't big, but still funny stories on how I got confused as an employee at places that don't have the dress code of fancy dress and while wearing a wig and sunglasses. The next story is titled Lady Tries to Get in My Car While I'm Trying to Parallel Park. A couple of years ago, I was back in my hometown after being gone a few years interviewing for a new job. I love the city I'm from, and I had deliberately planned to be there for my birthday weekend so I could spend some time in some of my old haunts. I decided one day I would stop by the locally owned coffee shop where I used to spend hours consuming coffee and free Wi-Fi, catch up on old times. Now the coffee shop is located along a very busy 4-lane street. During off-peak hours, though, it's legal to parallel park in the lanes closest to the sidewalk. I have always hated parallel parking, but I decide it's easier than waiting for a spot to open up in the very small parking lot in the alley behind the coffee shop. I luck out, and there's an open spot at the very end of the road, so I just need to pull in. But it always makes me nervous pulling in because of how busy the road is, and when I get nervous, I get worse at parallel parking. So I pull up and start backing into the space, and I think I'm doing okay, when suddenly my back door flies open in the middle of me straightening up my car. A middle-aged woman just starts picking up a bunch of bags and trying to stack them in my back seat. The woman just starts trying to load her stuff in my back seat. Confused, and still halfway in the road, I ask her, "May I help you, ma'am?" She replies, "No, I just need to get all my stuff in, and then I'll be ready to go." I still haven't caught on yet, and I'm like, "Why do you need to load your stuff in my car? Where are you going?" "Well, I need to get the stuff in the car so you can take me to a location." I think I suddenly realize what's going on. "Ma'am, I'm not an Uber driver," I say. "I'm trying to park so I can go in the coffee shop." Now, keep in mind, at the time I was driving up a 2011 Chevy Malibu that's seen better days. A couple dents, a smashed front end. This is on top of the fact that I'm pretty messy in cars and my entire backseat was filled with stuff from work and garbage. It wouldn't have passed the inspection if I wanted to be an Uber driver. I checked once when I was desperate for ways to make money. On top of that, there's no indication on my car that I'm an Uber driver, and I quote him, literally trying to parallel park my car. Surprised, she stood up, and her actual driver was on the side street, just in front of us trying to flag her down. It was at that moment she finally realized what was going on. Oh, well, never mind then. she said as she took all her stuff back out of my car and marched over to her actual Uber driver as I finally finished parallel parking. No explosive entitlement like other stories, but I swear, someone is going to get in a car one of these days thinking it's in Uber and become story fodder for r/let's not meet. And yes, I got the job, and it was a great birthday weekend. I was so happy to be going home, even if there's some weird people there. The next story is titled A Nice Little Encounter. I am 19, was at my favorite local Pete's, a joint at the counter waiting to pick up and pay for my order for my girlfriend 21, and I had to enjoy our shared apartment. I was wearing a black camouflage Nike hoodie, gray sweatpants, and yellow/black Adidas shoes. Not the average pizzeria worker attire, but I digress. I see a woman with a toddler around the age of 2 or 3 approaching the door, but she's having trouble with getting the door open. So I walked over to the door and held it open for her. She said thanks to me. Then I closed the door. I turned around to see her looking at me before she starts asking about the specials of the day. I put my hands up to signal her to slow down and stop, which works to my surprise. I tell her I didn't work there, and her eyes widened a bit before she started frantically apologizing. I told her it was fine and that it happens a lot more than you'd expect. It does actually happen a lot to me. The two of us then had a laugh about the small incident when I had noticed that her daughter was eyeing up the gumball machine. So I gave the mother a quarter when she told her daughter they would have to do it another time. I told her to enjoy her evening before grabbing my pizza and leaving the pizza joint. And that's my story for being mistaken for a pizzeria worker. The next story is titled Happened Twice This Weekend. I'm literally at Universal Orlando Resort. It's important to note every single employee wears a themed outfit based on where they're working and with name tags. First time I was wearing a hoodie and joggers, and this lady walks up to me and is like, "Hi, I have a question." And I'm just like looking at her, and she stands there for a second, then goes, "Oh wait, you don't work here, do you?" "No fam." Second time just happened and is much weirder. I just paid for my lunch at NBC Sports Grill, and everyone is wearing black and gold NBC gear, t-shirts or track jackets, and a name tag. I'm wearing a blue Ron Swanson shirt and joggers. Dude leaving walking by basically stops me, says, "Thanks for everything. Have a nice day." I was like, maybe he was just being nice, but then I was like, but why did he thank me? I'm assuming it has everything to do with my face and not what I'm wearing. The next story is titled I Don't Work Here, but I Know the Store. This happened yesterday. I was at Michael's picking up some yarn near the back of store yarn section when I saw a guy and a woman looking at the middle of the aisle yarn. I'm on a mobility scooter because reasons and stopped short when he stepped out in front of me. He looked confused and then headed off towards the very back of the store. Suddenly, all of the woman comes into view, and she's got a white cane with red tips. "Oh, can I help you? You look a little flabbergasted and lost," I said to him. Yes, my wife and I are looking for storage boxes." "Me? Oh, those are over there." I pointed for him and described exactly where they were at the aisle behind the clearance from our point of view at the other end of the store. His wife turned around to follow his voice and was banging into everything. I was cringing, but she was following her husband in the way too, crowded with stuff store, and caught up to him fine. Just then, the wild Karen came up. "Since you seem to know where everything is in this store, where are the candles?" I thumbed over my shoulder to my right and said, "Candle making supplies are right there." At that point, I took off to the cashier before anyone else could ask me any more questions. They might not have been the right candles, but that's where the candle making supplies were. The next story is titled My First I Don't Work Here Story, a 2-for-1 special. It's not that dramatic, but it was my first experience, so I figured I'd post it. So this just happened yesterday. My mom picked me up from work and took me to a certain Big Blue superstore to get some makeup and fake blood to turn my sister into a vampire for Halloween. I work at a grocery store that requires me to wear a red apron and red and black hat and a name tag with the store's name on it. When I get out of the car to go into Big Blue, I decided not to take the hat and apron off as it was raining, and I was hoping to go and get what I need and get out, but that's never how it goes at Big Blue. So I get out the car, put my Bluetooth earbuds in, and go into the stairs to locate my loot. After some wandering around the store, I finally find what I'm looking for and now have to decide which products I'm going to get. As I'm looking at the products in my hands, a large guy walks up to me and asks me something as I've gotten my earbuds and I can't hear him. Now, I could have used that as an excuse to not talk to him, but I'm still in my customer service mode, so I pause me my cray stories that I'm listening to and say, pardon me? Guide equals G me equals me guy. Is this all of the Halloween decorations you guys have me? I don't know guy. Do you guys have any adult costumes me? I don't know guy. Do you guys have, I don't remember what, product me? I don't know guy in a slightly irritated voice. Well, what do you know me? That I don't work here guy embarrassed now and laughing awkwardly. Oh, I'm so sorry I saw that apron and just thought you worked me looking down at my red apron with my store name on it. Yeah, it's perfectly fine you have a nice day sir and walk to the other side of the aisle. Well maybe 5-10 minutes later I still haven't decided which products I'm going to get yet, and a lady walks up to me with her son and say excuse me where do you guys keep the fake blood? Well considering I was just looking for that I tell her where I is and swiftly walk away before someone else can ask me for something. Well I got so preoccupied with those people I grabbed the wrong thing and had to come back in to exchange it for the right thing and ended up talking to a little boy at customer service who also thinks I work there. After all of that I was so happy I had a short shift because it meant that I still had patience for people at that point. The next story is titled Woman Mistakes Me for Hotel Employee Twice in 2 Days. Not a dramatic story. I'm more amused that this happened twice in as many days. I've been staying at a hotel this week for a business trip. I wrapped up my client visit yesterday and returned to the hotel. As I entered the lobby, I saw a woman standing at the check-in desk. I walked toward the elevators when I heard her yell, "Excuse me." I turned around and noticed her staring right at me. I was confused and she gestured around saying, "I've been waiting, can someone check me in?" I was dressed in business casual attire, so it wasn't too far of a stretch that she would assume I worked there. Before I could answer, an actual hotel employee ran out and said she would be able to help her. I continued to the elevator, not thinking much of it. This morning, I went down to the lobby area to grab some breakfast. Again, I was dressed presentably for a client visit. As I was grabbing some coffee, I noticed the same woman from yesterday at the cereal station. She made eye contact and started pointing at something. I didn't respond, so she called out, "The milk is empty." I realized she again mistook me for an employee. I replied, "Oh, sorry, I don't work here." "You helped me yesterday." She wasn't exactly aggressive. She seemed more confused than anything. She probably recognized me but misplaced me. I just calmly explained that no, I did not, and I'm also a guest at the hotel. She didn't say anything back, so I took the opportunity to leave because it was a little awkward. This happens to me, LOT. I guess I inherently have a customer service vibe. The next story is titled I Don't Work Here, but I wish I did. About 20 minutes ago, I'm in Sephora. I had gotten an email with a discount code and figured I'd treat myself to some new makeup for being an adult and getting my vaccine, as well as replacing the rotors on my car. So I'm browsing the eyeshadow, looking for a palette I want but don't already have. I'm wearing a tie-dye tank top, tie-dye bandana in my hair, and a pair of paint-stained jeans from when I helped paint my dad's fence a few days ago. So unless there's some sort of casual Wednesday I'm unaware of, I certainly don't look like an employee. Due to the panorama, you can't test the makeup like normal. This isn't a problem for me. I know what brands I like and work well for me. But apparently some lady had a huge problem with this, because the next thing I know there's a tap on my shoulder, so I turn around. I'm face to face with what I can best describe as Mimi, from the Drew Carey Show 2.0. Her face had so much makeup caked onto it I could see where she applied different shade concealers very clearly, almost like lines on her face. Her eyes were more done up than a fashion couture model during Fashion Week, but were smeared like she had just got done a 4-hour crying session. "I want to try that one," as she pointed at a colorful palette. "I bet you do. What's that supposed to mean?" she said with a sneer. "It looks like your eyeshadow could use a touch-up." I replied with a shrug. "How dare you insult me? I'll have your job." She even kinda stomped as she said this, like an angry rhinoceros. "Good luck with that, but if this is how you treat employees, I'm glad you got me instead. They don't get paid enough to put up with your BS." For whatever reason, she's still not convinced that I don't work there, and she stomps off to find a manager, still shrieking about disrespect and how she's never in blah blah. I figure the manager will take it and go back to looking at the palettes. Not so lucky. About a minute later, she comes huffing back, manager until looking like a poor pup who had just been beat. "That one," she screams while pointing at me, "that's the one who insulted me and I demand you do something about it right now," she cried, again stomping her feet on the last two syllables. The manager looks at me, looks at Mimi. shakes her head and said, "Ma'am, she clearly doesn't work here. She's a customer just like you. I'm not sure what you want me to do. I'm sorry if she upset you, but unless she put her hands on you or threatened you, there's not much I can do." Realization slowly washed over the woman, and her face went from being red like a cherry from being angry to being pink like bubblegum from being embarrassed. She stuttered out half an apology. "Oh, I'm so, yeah." Then said to the manager, "Well, I still want to try that pallet." At this point my mind was made up. There was only one of those pallets left on the floor, and while they might have had more in the back, she was going to wait for it. Without a word, I grabbed the pallet and started walking towards the line. Mimi nearly starts crying at this point. "Did you see that? Can she do that? I wanted that pallet." The manager simply responded, "Ma'am, you asked to sample the pallet, and unfortunately, right now, due to the redacted, I can't let you do that. As I already stated, she is a customer, and if she wants to buy that pallet, she is absolutely allowed. If you're going to keep causing a scene, I'm going to need to ask you to leave." Mimi turned on her heels and went to sulk in the corner of the store. I checked out and have been sitting in my car waiting for her to leave the store so I can go back and return this hideous pallet. Screw her. The next story is titled "Being Ambushed in the Parking Lot." So this isn't quite an "I don't work here" post, because I do work at the place that this has happened. But it's starting to annoy me because I'm clearly not on the clock and I haven't even gone into work yet. I know people have gotten crazier since the whole pandemic started. But yeah, I've had 2 different people drive up to me in their cars while I'm in the parking lot at the store I work at and just going to work. The first time, I was walking into work, carrying my vest and looking at my phone. I obviously was just going in and wasn't on the clock. A lady pulled right up next to me, rolled down her window, and asked me if I knew if we had any more flowers. This was right before Mother's Day, so a lot of people were trying to get them, and I guess some stores were running out. I just told her I was just coming, so I honestly didn't know. The second time it happened, I had barely even gotten out of my car and was still grabbing some of my belongings that I was taking in with me. We also have to park as far back away from the building as possible, and it was early morning and nobody else was anywhere nearby. And this woman just drove right up to me demanding to know when the store opened. This particular day was one of the days that we have the first hour reserved for medical workers/first responders. A couple other days of the week it's for seniors over 6 to 5. So I told her we were about to open at 7 for medical workers, but that we open at 8 for the general public. Then she replied, "So I can go in now?" And I was just like, "Yeah, if you're a medical worker," but I'm going to assume she probably wasn't. Then she just drove off and drove up to the front doors, which of course have signs about our current hours. And then I think she just left and didn't even go in the store. Like, why didn't she just drive up to the front and look at the sign in the first place instead of ambushing me while I was still at my car? Not only is it annoying to be harassed when I'm not on the clock, but I'm a cautious person and a fairly small woman. I really don't like people approaching me in parking lots, and especially not when I'm at my car parked way back away from the building where it's likely that no one else is going to be nearby, unless one of my coworkers happens to be parked near me and is going in/leaving at the same time I'm coming in. Luckily, in both of these instances, the ambushers were women who didn't appear to be too threatening, but still, WTF. Just stop it, people. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe to the channel and post some bear emojis in the comments.